cigarette impossibly vanishes and is produced again. The cigarette shrinks to a mini size and the cigarette floats between the magician's hands. The magician takes the cigarette, vanishes it, and it reappears. What's up everybody, Oscar Owen here, and in this video I'm going to be teaching you 12 incredible magic tricks with cigarettes. I've included beginner, intermediate and advanced magic tricks, so regardless of your skill level, there'll be something in here for you. So if you're ready, let's go to the card table and get learning these tricks. The magician takes a cigarette, and vanishes it. For this trick, you need a single cigarette. Take the cigarette and hold it in your hand with your thumb along one edge and these 4 fingers around the back. You can cleanly display the cigarette and then come in with your other hand and tap the cigarette down. Keep doing this, and when you get to the point where the orange bit of the cigarette is just at the tips of your fingers, the secret move happens. In the action of pushing the cigarette further into your hand, you push the cigarette down and move your hand forward. This will cause the cigarette to fly back into this hand into a palm position. So at full speed it looks like this. You tap the cigarette down, show your hand, and then palm it. From here you can keep your hand horizontal and this hand appears empty and you pretend to make the cigarette vanish. To produce the cigarette again, what you then do is in the palm position, you hold the cigarette and you clamp it between this finger and your middle finger. This allows you to move the edge of the cigarette outwards, and then with your thumb, you can simply flick the cigarette into view. The cigarette disappears and reappears. This is a really easy cigarette vanish and production. Hold the cigarette between your first finger, middle finger and thumb like this, and then all that's happening is you're extending your middle finger slightly and pulling back on the cigarette. This will cause the cigarette to flick into your hand like this. Now all you need to do is this move under the cover of your other hand, and the cigarette will appear to vanish. So at full speed it looks like this, and then to produce the cigarette again, all that's happening is you're taking your thumb, moving it down and just pushing the cigarette back out into view. So your other hand comes over, pretends to take it, shows it's empty, and then produces the cigarette again. The magician breaks the cigarette in half and cleanly shows the spectator. He then puts it back together and restores it. The broken and restored cigarette is a really good trick to do at parties, social events and gatherings. What I like to do is borrow a cigarette from someone because I don't smoke, and then you say that you're going to break the cigarette. You show the cigarette to the spectator, and as you come in to mimic the fact you're breaking it, your thumb simply pushes the cigarette further into your hand. From the spectator's view, they can't see this. You then almost peel the cigarette open as if you've broken it, and you can pretend showing both sides of the cigarette when in reality they can only see one bit, but it looks like you've got 2 pieces in your hands. You quickly show this and then put the pieces together, and as you twist your hands, you simply bring the cigarette back into the middle and show that it's been restored. Hold the cigarette between your first finger and middle finger like this, Then use your thumb and push the cigarette up in a snappy motion and produce it. If you're interested in learning incredible card tricks, including flourishes, cuts, shuffles and more, and tricks that are just too good to reveal on YouTube, then check out my magic card course in the first link in the description below. The course contains some of the best tricks ever created and will give you the ability to walk into a room and impress anybody that you like. So go and check out Card Magic Pro in the first link in the description. The cigarette vanishes completely and is produced again. For this trick, take a piece of double-sided tape and stick it to the back of your thumb. Then take a normal cigarette and show it completely clean. Say you're going to vanish the cigarette and come in with the cigarette and simply, in the action of pretending to take it, stick it to the back of your thumb on this hand here. So you can stick it to the back of your thumb and then show that it's vanished from this hand, and then it's vanished from this hand. And from the front, the spectators won't be able to see it because it's behind your hand, and then come back in and simply produce the cigarette again. The cigarette instantly vanishes and comes back. For this trick, get a piece of double-sided tape and stick it to the back of your thumb. Then take a cigarette and stick the orange part of the cigarette to that tape, but do it in a way so it's not this way round, but it's this way round going up your thumb. This now means from the front you can show the cigarette normally, but when you open up your hand, the cigarettes will disappear behind your thumb. So from here to here, and then you can produce it again. This is really good fun and always fools people. The instant vanish is a more advanced version of the flipstick vanish. Hold the cigarette between your first finger, middle finger and thumb, and extend your middle finger out slightly and pull back on the cigarette. This will cause the cigarette to fly back into your hand. Then to produce the cigarette again, move your thumb downwards and push out on the cigarette. Become comfortable with this move and you'll be ready to continue. Once you can do this, bring your other hand in and your thumb is going to apply pressure onto the edge of the cigarette here. So you're holding onto the cigarette and perform the flipstick, so your middle finger is pulling back on the cigarette, but your thumb is slightly resisting the cigarette moving back completely. This builds up tension, and eventually when you let go with your thumb, the cigarette will fire back much more quickly. The magician takes the cigarette, vanishes it, and produces it again. This trick requires you to know the flipstick vanish taught earlier. Hold the pen between your first finger, middle finger and thumb, and then come in with your other hand and pretend to take the cigarette. As you do this, perform the flipstick move and hold the cigarette here and pretend to take it in this hand. You can then reveal that the cigarette has magically vanished. The next part of this trick is to produce the cigarette again. What you're going to do is, once the cigarette's in this position, as taught earlier, you then simply rotate your hand around and put your thumb on top of the cigarette, just like this, slightly bending it. Now you can show your hand pretty much empty, and then come in with your first finger and place it on top of the cigarette and quickly move, so the cigarette's in this position, and quickly move your thumb behind the cigarette and produce it out. So at full speed, it looks like that. The cigarette vanishes and reappears multiple times. This is the multiple vanish routine with a cigarette. So hold the cigarette between your first finger, middle finger and thumb, and then perform a flipstick vanish taught earlier. Now what you need to do is push the cigarette back out, but as you do that, rotate this hand round, and then you can reveal that the other hand has nothing in it as well. So put together, you perform a flip stick vanish taught earlier, then push the cigarette into, so rotate this hand round and push the cigarette into your empty hand to show that your other hand is also empty, and then perform one more flip stick vanish. Now you're in this position, and what you need to do is you're going to do a visual production of the cigarette by simply moving your hand downwards and pushing the cigarette out at the same time. So at full speed, it looks like this. Now the cigarette is produced here, you need then move your hand back up and pull the cigarette back in behind this hand, and then to reveal the cigarette, finally, simply move this hand back round and produce the cigarette. At full speed, it looks like this. You have the cigarette and you perform one vanish, then you perform the next vanish, then you perform the next vanish, and then the cigarette is produced, goes back, and then you produce the cigarette again. The cigarette shrinks down in size. This trick will require two cigarettes. One is a normal cigarette, and the other is you cut off the orange paper that goes around the filter on the cigarette. You then place this orange paper onto a normal cigarette like this. Now you can create a very visual illusion. You simply hold out your hand and press downwards, and from the spectator's point of view, it will look as if the cigarette has shrunk, when in reality, the rest of the cigarette is here. The magician takes a cigarette, floats it in between his hands. Everything can be inspected. This trick requires you to use invisible thread. This is a small piece of black thread that's elasticated and can go around your hand, and it's so small that no one can see it. I'll leave a link in the description to where you can buy some. Have this thread going around your hand, and then move it so it's going around your first 4 fingers. Now take a cigarette and hold it in this position here. The thread is around these 4 fingers, so simply reach under, and this basically produces a base for the cigarette to rest on. Then all you need to do is balance the cigarette onto the thread, and it will create the illusion that the cigarette is floating. The cigarette multiplies. Have 2 cigarettes. Place one in a finger palm in this position here, and make sure the orange bit is closest to your middle finger. Then show the other cigarette and make sure the orange bit is facing the same way as your palm cigarette. You can show this cigarette around very cleanly. You can even show this hand as well, because they can't see the cigarette because of its palm position, and then simply come over and bring this hand on top of the cigarette and pretend to produce 2. Thanks so much for watching. Check out the course if you're looking to learn some of the greatest card tricks, moves and sleights ever created, and I'll see you guys in the next video.